Welcome. This is the 183rd anniversary annual Seminole Maroon spiritual remembrance of the two battles of the Loxahatchee River, which took place here on this sacred site in 1838. My name is Dinizulu Jean Tinney. I'm a board member of the Florida Black Historical Research Project, Incorporated, and we're presenting this program in cooperation with Loxahatchee Battlefield Preservationists and the Palm Beach County Parks and Recreation Department. As always, we begin at the beginning, and that is with a sacred opening of the way where we honor the land, honor our ancestors of this land, who we thank for their wise stewardship of it for thousands of years. And to officially do that, I want to introduce Carib tribal queen, Mrs. Catherine Hummingbird Ramirez, who has graced this occasion for many years, actually almost since its outset. So at this point, I will bring her forward and she will initiate our official ceremony by beginning at the beginning. Thank you.
Today I'm here to bless the land. And we're going to do it blessing the four corners of the land. Yeah-oh, yeah-oh. Yeah-oh, yeah-oh. Yate! 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 Pachamama! Pachamama! Pachamama, we love you! All the ancestors are here with us today. I love you. Love you. I love you. This land is sacred land, and I hope and pray that every one of you that is going to do good things here, we have to respect this land. I'm going to do the prayer now. Smudging first. Get closer, people who wants to get smudging. Closer. Jojo. This corn is sacred. Corn was originated in Mexico, and it's sacred to the native people around the Americas, around the world. Thank you. I'm going to put these by the tree right now, around, and so thank you. At the end, I want to say the simple word. My ceremony is finished, and I'm going to say, Yatahe! 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 So, interpretation. Interpretation is greetings, welcome, goodbye, and come back again. Because the native people never say goodbye. I hope. Yeah-oh, yeah-oh. I hope. All right.
Good sunrise, new sunrise blessings to everyone. We're all fortunate, and we all belong here on this planet. We're all fortunate that the planet is still moving as part of the universe. It's moving along with the other planets and energies that are moving. So we are very fortunate today to be here be on this planet. It's also an honor to be here on this land, Loxahatchee battlefield. This is a place of significant history. It is a place which is part of what has happened in the past, which has determined how things are today, and still determines how things will be in the future. Things that happen here on this ground, in this area, where blood was shed. Blood was shed. My family was here. My family's blood is here. I'm from the Seminole tribe of Florida. I am a member of the Seminole tribe of Florida. I also practice the traditional ways within my culture. What happened here many years ago, what happened was that we were here, my family was here, and our blood dropped on this ground here. The reason for that was that we had the right. We had God-given rights. The Creator gave us rights. And for that, our blood was dropped here. The Creator had given us these rights, which we've always held on to for thousands of years. For thousands of years, we practiced, we prayed, we lived off this land. We worshiped this land as a gift. We worship this land as part of energy coming from the universe. It has always been sacred for us. It has always been for thousands of years. Therefore, that was one of the reasons that the blood was shed here. And back in history, our allies, our friends, the Black Seminoles, did not understand. They pleaded with us to leave this land, to move out, and move out to Oklahoma. They pleaded with us. They did not understand why we would stay and fight. They told us that if we stay, we're going to all die. We're going to be all killed. And we chose to stay. It may be a mystery for a lot of people. That may be a mystery for this country. It may be a mystery for this land. But I know what that means. I know what that means. What it means is that when a group of people lives under the rules of the Creator, the people have to go along with what Creator asks for us to do. For us, that is what we were doing. And from here and on, we all have to remember that we all have to move forward from this day. And we have to move according to what the divine instructions are. That is what we have to do. I'm going to play a prayer flute. I'm going to do a prayer song. The flute playing was within the Seminole tribe with the Seminole people a long time ago. During the wars, we lost the art to playing flute. But today, members of Seminole tribe have brought it back, and we practice and we enjoy playing flute. This is actually a prayer flute, a prayer song, and this is a healing song that I want to share with you. It's a healing song. We all need to be healed within our personal lives, at home, within our communities, where we come from. We all need healing. We all have our own little secret pains that we carry. We all have to be healed. We all need to be healed. We all need to reconnect. Upon healing ourselves, we can heal our community and our families. This is a very sacred song I'm going to share with you. So if you would like, you close your eyes and you think about the pain that we're going through as families, as communities, as a country, as a global community. Think of the pain and share this moment. From here on, we must all focus on healing. From here on, we must pray and be close to the Creator. And remember that the Creator is the ultimate answer. There's so many theatrics going on in this country, on this planet, so many countries. There's so much theatrics. Everyone is mesmerized. It's time we have to wake up and answer to one true Creator. Thank you very much.
In addition to the honor of welcoming you all officially, I also have the honor of pouring libations. Very often when we do this, most times we have a priest, an initiated person in the African tradition to do this. I am not, but I can certainly invoke the spirit of it, and we'll do this in a more brief fashion than we might ordinarily do because of our time constraints. I'll just begin by saying libation is part of the requirement. It's part of, just as we had to ask permission of the land, honor the ancestors of this land before we could do anything. We begin any remembrance, any ceremony with remembering the ancestors, calling on those spirits to be with us, to bless this gathering, to guide our deliberations. This is done in the spirit of a very simple yet very profound awareness that we don't often mention in our daily lives, but in traditional Africa, this is a consciousness and awareness that people have 24 hours a day. And that is that we who are living today are the embodiment of all of our ancestors. Their blood, their bone, their flesh is ours, so that they are physically present in us. There are millions of people here at this gathering. In the same way, we are the embodiment of all future generations that there ever will be. So when we pour libation, we're making it a very physical gesture by pouring. Traditionally, we use strong liquor of some kind because this, over thousands of years, has been found to be the effective way that we connect with the rest of the universe, with the rest of humanity. Our ancestors, our future generations are not separate from us. So we begin by remembering them. We often call the names of ancestors in our own families, heroic ancestors who have come before us as we do this, and we ask them to be present and to guide us. This is also part, I might as well mention, of yet another larger consciousness, which is that there's one universe. Now that sounds very simple, but when we really think about a scientific a way of knowledge that had existed for thousands, hundreds of thousands of years, where people were aware that there are no aliens, there's nothing in the universe that's strange. Everything that happens is here. The center of the universe is everywhere. So all of these divisions that we hear about, the categories, the labels, this is very foreign, you might say, to our understanding. So with no further ado, we're going to consecrate the ground, welcome our ancestral spirits. If you want to, those who are listening, this is you can remember, you can call out the names of grandparents, ancestors, heroic figures, and we do so for all ancestors, not only our own, not only those from Africa, not only those who are indigenous to this nation, but to all who have lived here before us, whose spirits have consecrated the earth that we walk on, and we give thanks in this way. Ashe. Okay, and with that, I will call forward. This opens the way now for other prayers, other meditations, and our dear friend, Miss Maritza Santana, will come forward and offer as an Ayesca, a Far Eastern Hindu meditation. I hope I said that right. Okay, Miss Santana. And again, once again, thanks again to our indigenous friends for opening the way for us.
Thank you, Mr. Tinney. Namaste. I will be chanting for you an ancient chant from India, Hari Om. And the word Hari means to take away. So anything within you that is not in harmony, anything that you need to be healed, give it to the mantra. I'm going to chant Om 3 times, and then 3 rounds of Hari Om, and Om 3 times again, and then I'll say Namaste. I'm going to ask you to close your eyes. Those of you at home, I know you'll be tempted to keep your eyes open, but don't. You will not feel the effects of the mantra if you do not close your eyes. I'm going to close my eyes too. So let's close our eyes and take a deep breath. Namaste.
Good morning. It's a highway to heaven. None can walk up there but the pure in heart. It's a highway to heaven. We are walking up the King's highway. Today on this sacred ground, we are remembering the valiant
struggles to live in freedom and harmony on Florida soil. The dogged perseverance of Africans and their descendants and Native Americans and their descendants. The song, the spiritual, A Highway to Heaven, speaks of the King's Highway as a road where people are walking. The first verse goes, "My way gets brighter, my load gets lighter, walking up the King's Highway." We all have heard of the hidden messages in Black spirituals, those coded, obscure messages designed to facilitate the liberation of an enslaved human being. Yet, when I sang the words, "Walking up the King's Highway" as a little girl at Tabernacle Baptist Church in West Palm Beach, Florida, I never connected the words to freedom. But many of the ancestors of the Maroons we are remembering today may have come to Florida on the southern route of the King's Highway, a road very likely built from old trails left by earlier native inhabitants, a road whose predecessor was built in the 17th century to go from Charleston to Boston. The road to Florida, over a century later, was built to go from St. Marks, Georgia, to New Smyrna Beach, Florida. And it has been said at the beginning of the 1776 American Revolution, the old King's Road became a route of fleeing refugees, Native Americans, and self-emancipated African Americans coming south towards St. Augustine, Florida. One Florida historian has a series of books on the King's Highway. Two of the books pertain to Seminoles and Seminole legends. But for Florida Maroons who lived as Seminoles, freedom was always fragile. And the final road taken by many was not the King's Highway, but the Trail of Tears. We often speak and act in ignorance of our history, but today we remember the sufferings of the past. We grieve for those who made the long trek on the Trail of Tears. We remember the children, the mothers, the fathers who endured the turmoil of settler fury and settler greed. We remember the cries of children whose tears were never comforted and whose hearts were never warmed by the embrace of their mothers and fathers. We cry, God have mercy. May the world never see this smothering Atlantic atrocity again. May faith in Christ sustain us as we forgive the trespassers of our past. We vow to remember and to honor the resistance and endurance of our ancestors. And we thank you, God, for bringing us to freedom and showing us the pathway to hope. It's a highway to heaven, none can walk up there but the pure in heart. It's a highway to heaven, we are walking up the King's Highway. Amen.
Hello, my name's Pat Norris, and I'm going to play taps in honor to all those fallen.
key moments every time we do these remembrances here at this sacred battlefield. We remember all of the fallen on all sides. Behind me you'll see that we have the flag of the United States, of course, this sort of brash experiment in history that has brought so many people from so many parts of the world here with all of the traditions, the prayerful traditions that you heard, some of which you heard, which, when we consider it, should really make us the greatest nation on earth, just because we have all nations represented here. Behind me, next to the American flag, are the flags of the Seminole Diaspora, those who went on the Trail of Tears to Oklahoma, where the great Seminole Nation still thrives. And we thank former Oklahoma State Senator Anastasia Pittman for providing us with that flag for the occasion. We have the flag of the Bahamas, where even before Loxahatchee and after, people from here departed from places like Key Biscayne and made their way to Andros Islands, to the Red Bay settlement in the Bahamas, and also to Cuba and other parts of the Caribbean. And then, of course, there's the Seminole flag of Florida itself. You heard from Mr. Samuel Tommy, who, speaking on behalf of those who did not leave here, who are still here. And in the background of all of it is the red, black, and green flag of African America, of global African unity, without which, as history shows, there would not really be an America, because somebody had to come here and build it. The Schomburg Library in New York has researched and determined that prior to 1776, 4 times as many Africans were brought into this country as Europeans, which raises the question of, well, what happened to make the African population a minority? When we look at the last census and we see that the indigenous population rose to 2% of the total American population of 320 million people back then, we have to ask, well, what happened? Between November and January, there have to be at least 8 anniversaries of major so-called Indian massacres that took place in this country. It is criminal that we are miseducating our children and not teaching this whole history. But it is on us, it is our challenge, our opportunity, our blessing to be in the position to do this, to honor those who came before us, to honor those who have yet to come after us. And what better place to do this than at this very consecrated site. I mentioned how many Africans came before 1776. Further research shows that African people were coming here before Columbus, before any of the exploration that we read about in history. And why should we be surprised? After all, as long as humanity has been on this earth, is it realistic to think that only 500 years ago people started crossing oceans? I believe it was last year we visited the Atatiki Museum in Big Cypress, the Seminole Preserve, at Big Cypress Preserve, during a festival, and we met a student there who was from Peru. And he was telling us that as children, he and his friends learned from his grandfather about Africans coming to Peru for centuries and centuries before. I mention this not for any kind of ethnic boosterism, of course, but mainly to underscore the fact that there is so much history yet to be learned. I mentioned, we belong to one universe. Everything that happens in the universe stays in the universe. If we forget it, ignore it, lie about it, deny it, it doesn't change that it happened. So we're much more empowered by knowing, acknowledging, embracing who we are. And that's why we give thanks to all those who have supported occasions like this and created opportunities like this. With that, I mentioned Florida Black Historical Research Project Incorporated, which I represent. This would not be possible without the cooperation of the folks who have been so diligent in the cause of preserving and saving this site, the Loxahatchee Battlefield Preservationists. And I'll be calling up Ms. Holly Torres, who officially is the president. Unofficially, she is everything to everybody for making this thing happen. And and I would also be remiss, the very gifted, lovely young lady that you saw earlier, who gave the meditation and Highway to Heaven, in my impartial, view, one of the greatest people on earth, happens to be my wife, Dr. Wallace Tinney, who is the board chair of the Florida Black Historical Research Project. I should mention also that we have a sister organization, the Oklahoma Black Historical Research Project, that does the same work there. And we've had exchanges in the past. But with that, I'd like to call Ms. Holly Torres to the forefront here so she can greet you from Loxahatchee Battlefield Preservationists. Thank you again.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm with the Loxahatchee Battlefield Preservationists, and we are the group of 501(c) human beings that are pretty much out here multiple days a week, preserving history and educating the public and the children in our community on all of the past, and being a voice for the ancestors and the lost souls or happy souls of the Loxahatchee here. We are so thankful to have been in this partnership for over 20 years with the Florida Black Historical Research Project, I believe since 1993. For us to be able to have this relationship with the Seminole Maroon community, to be able to bring this anniversary ceremony to you all each and every year. So I thank Dr. Wallace Tinney and Jean and their entire groups for being out here with us each year to produce this, and special thanks as well to Hummingbird's beautiful ceremony that she brings to us every year from her heart. And also, I thought, how can I follow Samuel's speech? I cannot. It's all beautiful and connected. We are all one. And we're out here, guys, not just once a year, all the time. And we would love to have you all out here with us in the help of the preservation and protection of this land, of these sacred sites, and to help continue educating the community and the world about the past and the truth of the past. That is what has happened here. So feel free to visit our website, loxahatcheebattlefield.com. And we look forward to seeing you all, and thank you so much for tuning in today. We do have a couple of more things to go here. And I'll bring on the next person. I also wanted to tell you guys that there's some pictures here on the table of Isa. This is Isa. They may not have mentioned in the beginning, but I know we spoke about Isa Ham Bryant, who brought this whole thing about from his own spirit, and his pictures are on the table, and we are going to have a special presentation and tribute to Isa Ham Bryant now. Thank you all for watching today.
I was fortunate enough many years ago to run into a person that literally changed my life. And I want to take a few minutes to tell you about that person. I was back in the early 90s working on this piece of property with some other avocational archaeologists trying to determine the exact site of the Battle of the Loxahatchee. 2 battles of the Loxahatchee. We were fortunate enough to be the first to find artifacts and then come up with definitive proof that matched that up with what was known. And so the battlefield was found. Initially, probably about 1991, 92-ish, we were starting to get confirmation. How this figures into who I'm going to speak about today is I want to speak today about a man named Isa Ham Bryant. Let me tell you about Isa and why he's so special and why he has such a strong impact on this property that we're on. You see, Isa didn't follow the normal rules that you and I have to follow on a basis. Isa followed his heart. He followed his conscience. He opened himself up to what nature would tell him. He opened himself up to what his spirit would tell him. He opened himself up to the truth. He exposed himself to the truth on a day-to-day basis, which made him a very, very powerful person. And in that very powerful person, when you come into close contact with a person like that, it cannot not affect you. It has to affect you. And what Isa did, I started telling him about the Battle of Loxahatchee. I knew he couldn't know anything about that. He knew everything about everything else, but he couldn't. But I've been studying the Battle of Loxahatchee. And when I finished introducing myself, he started to lecture me on the Battle of Loxahatchee and how his relatives, his ancestors, were here and fought here. You can imagine my chin just about hit the floor when he told me that. And I said, well, you know, we've identified the spot. We know where it happened. We know where this catastrophe was carried out. And he said, I want to go there. I want to be there. When they told Isa he could have his program in this park, he called me. He did not drive. He called me and he said, I need you to take me up there. And again, we had 2 ceremonies, but outside. And he said, I've got to find a place for us to have the ceremony. And I said, fine, I'll be happy to do that. So I picked Isa up. He had a boat off of Riviera Beach, a sailboat that he lived on. I went and picked him up at the marina, brought him up here, and we parked in front of the fence out there. There was no gate to come in. And Isa got out of my vehicle and he looked at me and he said, no offense, but he said, this is something I have to do on my own. This is something I have to do. And I said, Isa, I don't have a problem with that. You know, I know this is special to you. And Isa took off his shoes, put them in my car, and he said, don't wait for me. He said, don't wait for me. He said, because I don't know how long this is going to take. I said, Isa, I can't leave you up here. Back then, this was a long way from anywhere. There really wasn't much around here, and it was a long way back to his sailboat in Riviera Beach, probably 20 or 30 miles. So I said, Isa, I'll be here when you get out. When you're ready to come out, my vehicle will be here. I'll be here. And there's 660 acres here. And please don't think that it looked anything then like it does now. It was run over and thick and vines and palmettos, and it looks nothing like this. No roads, no pavement, no anything. But Isa disappeared over the fence into the brush, and when he said don't wait, after about 2 hours I thought, boy, he meant don't wait. And but I stayed, and Isa walked this whole piece of ground barefoot. He walked every bit of it, everywhere, back through there, over there, across the river. Probably swam across some places. Weren't any bridges. And he came through every part of this park. And I think it was probably around 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon that he came out, finally appeared, came over the fence, and he said, I got it. I said, you've got the place where you want the ceremony to be? He said, yeah, I got it. Ladies and gentlemen, you're sitting on the place that Isa found. This is the spot. This is Isa's tree. This is Isa's ground. Isa endures here, as I said. Isa's totem was the panther, and I believe the panther returns here every single night to protect this place. It's his ground. We owe it to Isa to keep this alive, to hold this in our heart. The sacrifice, you do not know the sacrifice that, and I can't say the sacrifices that Isa went through to make sure that this park stays the way it does. Would you all mind if I read a poem from Isa's book? I'm going to read, if you don't mind, I'm going to read a poem from Isa's book. It's called We Are Florida. Is that still available through? Okay. I strongly suggest that you get this book. It's a small book, but it is a powerhouse of knowledge. It is packed with information that you don't know. And if you read it, it will change the way you think, not only about here, but about history in general. So, if you don't mind, I'm going to read from the last page of Isa's book, Isa Ham Bryant. And I'm going to read you, it's really not a poem, rather than, it is a poem, but it is a kind of a glimpse into what he was feeling before he died. Away are the streets and memories of this place, once a lamp of liberty in America's silence towards our plight. Now we sleep the slumber of ignorance in paradise. Paradise paid for with death and chains, for no whites from Columbus, Ponce de Leon, or other so-called explorers were allowed here until the 1870s without fear of death at the hands of suspicious blacks and Indians indeed. In 1994, the city of West Palm Beach celebrated this white centennial in November, and they were the whites in antebellum dress, totally ignoring the fact that this town had no slave plantations. And during slavery, there wasn't anyone with enough nerve or arms to put one here. I'm sure this fact won't be brought out in public, for this is a beautiful land that has molded a people unique in their story here. In a land far from their origins, Africans and Indians living on what is Palm Beach today experience this government's first redevelopment project, where our people no longer know its streets and oceans. Today, we're its servants only, requiring a pass stating who you're working for. We don't complain. The sun, the wind, the earth, and God are still here. Mango, fish, coconut, and cloud bring comfort. As I write before, we're gone from memory. Asa Ham Bryant. I have one last very quick thing. Asa told me he was descended from Black Seminole Augustus Wally. Augustus Wally was one of America's Congressional Medal of Honor winners. After the Second Seminole War, African Americans who were freedom fighters here in Florida went west. Their talents were recruited into the Army, and they became the best soldiers the United States has ever put forward. Augustus Wally was a Medal of Honor winner, Congressional Medal of Honor winner. And Asa had told me many times he was descended from Augustus Wally. Today, what I would like to do is present to the Florida Black Historical Research Project a statue of Augustus Wally. On behalf of the Loxahatchee Battlefield Preservationists, we present the statue of Augustus Wally, America's former Maroon, former slave who fought for freedom here and then eventually fought with the United States Army to win the Congressional Medal of Honor. On behalf of Loxahatchee Battlefield Preservationists, we present this today to the Florida Black Historical Research Project in honor of Asa Ham Bryant. Thank you. Thank you.
The Battle of the Loxahatchee was actually two battles. The very first battle was a naval reconnaissance force. That was led by Lieutenant Levin M. Powell of the United States Navy. There were approximately 96 sailors and soldiers sent. The reconnaissance force came here to Jupiter and landed here on the Loxahatchee River. They disembarked their boats and traveled 5 miles into the interior after capturing a Seminole woman. The Seminole woman led them to this location following the smoke trails of campfires coming from the village. As we would find out later, this was actually part of the plan. The plan was, as in most battles with the Seminoles, that the battle, the ground, and the plan had been meticulously prepared by the Seminoles, and this was no different here at the Loxahatchee. She had led them into an ambush. With the sailors being green and recently recruited, they quickly fell back in disorganization and panicked and ran for the boats. The Army, however, had 25 Army artillerymen here. They maintained their discipline and led, after their officer was shot down, led by Joseph Eggleston Johnson, a future Civil War general, in what would have surely become the Powell Massacre had he not been present that day. 9 days later, after this battle and this Seminole victory here on the Loxahatchee River, 9 days later, on January 24th, the main body of the Army would return to the Loxahatchee under the command of General Jessup. 1,500 strong, 500 Tennessee volunteers, 600 dragoons, and 400 Army artillerymen with 100 Alabama volunteers and 35 Delaware Indians in their ranks. Once again, just as every other battle that the Seminoles fought in, this battleground was completely prepared. In the opening salvos of the battle, the Seminoles went out about a half mile from where we are now to the west, and they engaged Captain Fulton's advance guard of Tennessee volunteers and dragoons. And what they did is they dismounted immediately and they charged the Seminole line. The Seminoles drove them back quickly. They charged again. Quickly they found out, they discovered, however, that they had been completely surrounded or were being surrounded, and they flew to their horses, as one private describes it, to warn the Army 4 miles back. That was the opening phase of the battle, the attack on the advance guard. The second phase of the battle would come when General Jessup leaves General Eustis's wagon train in the rear with the artillery and the supplies and rides ahead quickly with his Tennessee volunteers and dragoons in quick pursuit of the Seminole Indians. As the dragoons arrive at the battle, sight, the Seminole Indians quickly draw them into a watery abyss, located in in a dense cypress swamp. The dragoons, with their ammunition being wet, floundering in the dark cypress water, found the going very, very hard. The artillery came up with Congreve rocket batteries. The artillery also came up with 12-pound mountain howitzer and a 6-pound cannon. And they absolutely just hammered this area that we're standing in right here with grape shot and case shot. And the area that we are standing in right now is the South Seminole Village. There were 2 villages here at the Loxahatchee, and we are standing in the South Village. Now this would have been on the south side of the Loxahatchee River, just before it turns back south. But the Loxahatchee took a little bit of a jog to the west, and that's the area that we're standing in. The dragoons attacked this particular area, and they were held off for quite some time. But as the battle came to an end, they would eventually cross the river and flank the Seminoles here at this location. However, there were a lot of things that occurred between that time. The Tennessee Volunteers coming up found themselves on the high ground in a high hammock, facing the entire Seminole line, the full fury of the Seminole fire. The Seminoles had prepared this battlefield meticulously. They had gone out and they had cut notches in the trees to rest their rifles. They had actually built breastworks, and we have in our possession a piece of cypress log that is about 18 inches long and maybe about 6 inches wide. That cypress log has 5 Seminole balls and Army musket balls in it. And that shows you, that's a good example of the volume of the fire that occurred here. With the Tennessee Volunteers pinned down, an incident did occur between General Jessup and the Tennessee Volunteers, which caused a great deal of consternation between the regular troops and the volunteer troops. Eventually, when Fort Jupiter is established, the volunteers would actually be asked to move out of the fort and reside in a different location because the violence had become so bad. But one of the things that I want to talk about is just as we were starting this presentation here today, I could hear gunfire in the distance coming from the general direction of the advance guard. And as we started our presentation, I thought about the children, and seeing that we are talking today about the forgotten children of the Loxahatchee River, I want to make sure everybody understands there were 216 children at this place at the battle on January 24th. Those 216 children, many of them orphans, would find themselves the target of this artillery fire, the grape shot, the case shot, and the Congreve rockets. We can only wonder the terror and the horror that must have gone through their hearts when they heard those opening shots, as we heard today from that general direction. Knowing that they had their back to the ocean and the Everglades, they must have surely felt trapped. The battle lasted about 2 hours, with the Seminoles finally retiring north and south down the river. Fort Jupiter was established 2 days later at a place that we call Pennock Point now. And patrols would be sent out over the next following days. On February 7th, 1838, the forces of General Jessup would track the Seminole down to a place that we call Camp Truce now. And at Camp Truce, the Army began to form up to do battle. A young private writes, and I'm going to paraphrase here, but he writes, "We were all drawn up in a line of battle, and then 2 chiefs appeared with a white flag. And once again, we were saved from another drubbing by the Indians, by the emissaries of peace." And what they were doing is they came out to say, listen, we are beat, we are destroyed, we would wish to stay here in Florida and remain here in our home. General Jessup agrees. A deal was made for the Seminoles to return to Fort Jupiter, and over the next month they reside there in relative peace. Spirits were high. Life was not easy, but spirits were high, because as the Seminoles came in, they were told that the war was now over, that General Jessup had ended the war, with a petition being sent to Washington City to ask the Seminoles to be able to stay here on the Loxahatchee in their homes. The word finally came back on March 20th, 1838, and the answer was no, that the Seminoles must go to the reservations. Fearing that the Seminoles had heard about this news, General Jessup decided to order that the troops capture the Seminoles under a white flag of truce. And the largest capture under a white flag of truce occurred right here in Jupiter, Florida, on that day, March 20th, 1838. Seminoles would eventually be gathered up here at the fort and sent west on the Trail of Tears that runs through the park at this location. The Trail of Tears led them to Tampa and then on to Edgemont Key, and then west to the territories across the Mississippi River. So when we think about today's legacy, think about the tragedy that occurred here. Many of the children that were here were orphans, as I have described, and the battle was a truly tragic affair. The war indeed was not over. The Seminoles, angry at their chiefs, Tuskegee Miko and Halakajo, killed them in a rage, thinking they had been betrayed. And with that, the legacy of the Loxahatchee battlefield has been preserved. Thank you.
Thank you, my brother, Denny Zulu, and my sister Wallace for again inviting me to share in what this family has been doing for so many years. I also want to acknowledge, because I acknowledge my other ancestors, my Tikar people in Africa and the Powhatan and the Cherokee, and I should acknowledge that I married into the Seminole family. So my son is Seminole, and he's Cox Osceola Seminole Reservation, Ocklawaha Band, Panther Clan. So I'm here standing for him in the power of his ancestors as well today. I want to share with you, because we are going to honor the children that were lost as a result of the Battle of Loxahatchee and the people of this land being removed. I want when you have the opportunity to share whatever may be on your heart about what you've learned today, what you feel today, whatever the Creator has put on your heart to share with all of us here, that gives us more enlightenment here as we honor the ancestors of this land. So if anyone would like to step forward first. My brother from Peru?
Yes. There is a prophecy from the Lake Titicaca region that says that there will come a day when all the brothers and sisters that form one humanity, it says, Uka hacha uru hutashkiwai, amuyasip hanyawi hutashkiwai, amuyasip hanyawi hutashkiwai. Tatanak, that's the Father Sky or Father Sun, Mamanaka. Tatanak, Mamanaka. Amuya Sip Hanyawi Hutashkiwai. So that's what it means. We all come together again and start anew after being separated for a long, long time. So hope it happens. I hope.
Anyone else? I want everyone to feel that they have the opportunity to share what their feeling is, what the Great Spirit has put on their heart. It's always an honor for me, because we know that this has always been a special place where Africans and Native people came
Oh,
together.
yes, definitely.
And we always say when you walk in your power when you honor all of your ancestors. And so as I stand here, I walk in power of my ancestors from the Tikar people of an area that is known as Cameroon in Africa. I walk in honor of my Powhatan ancestors from the Roanoke, Virginia area. I walk in honor of my Cherokee ancestors.
Come with the strength you have. Come on.
And Georgia.
Beautiful
So
strength.
all of us have to honor those who gave us life, who gave us the path that we are on today. And so it's an honor for us to come together in this land to do that. So please, if you do have more to share with us, we are happy for you to do that with us.
I'm actually going to read something my daughter, most of you guys know she couldn't be here today, but because I'm working.
Oh, I miss her.
She actually wrote this and she just amended it. She just amended it this morning and sent it back over. So this is from Rada. She's 8. Some of you know her. She's a little reenactor with us. And this is what she wanted said. About 182 years ago, so that's 183 years ago, there were 216 children, just like you and me, that lived in a very large village, and that village is at Riverbend Park. Actually, it's still there today, but you can't see the houses and the people, but you can see the exact spot that those people lived. And I was one of those people in my past life, and when I pass that village, I close my eyes and I see those people and those 216 children screaming in terror, not knowing what was going to happen next. Now, this is a true story that you shall never forget. So will you forget these children? No, you will not, because these children are more important than anyone or anything. And you are going to remember these children, and that it is the most important question that anyone could ask you. So remember these children. And again, that's from Rada, age 8, Jerry Thomas Elementary.
So in this ceremony, we all will participate.
Oh.
I'll light some sage, and in bringing all the nations in, I'm going to sing a Beauty Way prayer from our Lakota brothers. And as I sing that song, I want each of you to take a flower or two, whatever is on your heart, say a prayer, and cast that flower into the river as we honor the sacrifice of the children of Loxahatchee. Aho. Taho,
Play one more song, and this is like the water spirit song. There's a joy, there's a peacefulness that, you know, there's a spirit to the water. So maybe you know what I'm talking about.